Imagine being in a garage in the late 90s, telling people you're going to organize all of the world's information somehow. They'd likely say you're delirious, especially if you're two grad students scrounging for spare computer parts, yet that's exactly how Google began. Larry Page and Sergey Brin, fueled by pizza in a suburban California garage owned by Susan Wojcicki. Fast forward a couple decades and we literally verbify Google, saying, just Google it, as if it's always existed in nature. Hey, my name's Andrew Wall, founder of Not Corrupt Media, and welcome to Create the Thing. In today's episode, the mind-blowing story of how Google soared from that garage to a trillion-dollar empire, touching almost every aspect of our digital lives. So whether you're a founder looking for brand inspiration or just curious about Google, wanting to see how a scrappy search engine ended up shaping the entire internet, then buckle up. We're going to go product by product, unveiling the wild facts and truths behind Google's unstoppable rise. It's 1998. Larry Page and Sergey Brin call the research project they're working on Backrub because it's analyzing web backlinks. They soon rename it to Google as like a playful misspelling of Google, and they set up a tiny office at 232 Santa Margarita Avenue in Menlo Park. And this space they made that business in was so bare bones, they put up a Google Worldwide HQ sign on a whiteboard just as a tongue-in-cheek joke. Family, friends, early angel investors kicked in a bit of cash. Notably, Andy Bettolsheim wrote them a $100K check to Google Inc. before it even existed legally. It was early, okay? The key value from day one for them was putting the user's search experience first, with no clutter, no fluff, just giving the best results. That was the value they were providing. So for users, the big benefit was typing what you want and then getting scary relevant answers in seconds. That was shockingly better than the portals of the time. Remember Yahoo or Alta Vista? There was even Ask Jeeves. If you weren't alive back then, it was literally a fancy butler that made you ask him questions to see stuff on the internet. It was ridiculous. And these portals were stuffed full of news tickers, banner ads, chat rooms. Anyway, Google's blank page loaded in a fraction of the time, especially crucial because we had 56K dial-up modems. The internet wasn't very fast, and people raved that Google's results just worked. So word of mouth actually exploded. I remember at my high school at the time, we were telling each other, why don't you Google it instead? I was on Ask Jeeves before, and I started using Google, and we just told all of our friends. No marketing. We just spread it virally because it benefited us. By 1999, they handled 500,000 searches per day. And then by 2000, it soared to 60 million daily queries with minimal marketing spend. So that's the value they were trying to achieve. Those are the benefits they provided users. So what are the features that delivered it? How did they do it? Well, the secret sauce was PageRank. Each link to a page is like a vote of confidence. The more votes you get, the higher quality your page essentially is. You want links from reputable sites when it comes to backlinking. That ranks you higher. Another unique feature was the minimalist homepage they created. And what's interesting is in early focus groups, they were told that something must be broken because they were used to busy portals with a bunch of garbage in them. But ironically, their sort of Spartan design let Google become the beloved brand it is today, because users recognize the sort of honesty in design, that we're just here to get you answers. Okay, they got the search. How do you monetize it? Well, Google Ads, baby. The year's 2000, and once search gained traction, Google faced the question, how do we fund our growth without selling out the user experience? So in 2000, they announced AdWords, rebranded to Google Ads later in 2018, as you're familiar. And it was an auction-based advertising platform. The big value here was to respect the user. So they wanted to ensure that there were no intrusive banner ads and just small text-based links triggered by relevant searches. So for advertisers, this was gold. It allowed them to only pay when someone actively searched what they offered. Incredible. This was the first time this ever happened. For users, it meant that ads they saw on the internet were actually sometimes helpful. Like if you typed best running shoes, you might even see a text ad for a running shoes deal instead of a generic ad. So the synergy between advertisers and users was a win-win on the back of Google search because it allowed advertisers to reach users that had a high intent, and the users got to see something that actually helped them out. Meanwhile, Google reaped a cut of each pay per click, that was the model then, ad. The key features included in the cost per click model for advertisers, they bid on keywords and then only pay when it was clicked. The AdWords interface let small businesses set budgets and quality scores ensure relevant ads would rank higher. So by avoiding giant pop-ups or banners, essentially, Google Ads stayed fairly unobtrusive. This approach soared, obviously, and by 2004, their ad revenue topped $3.2 billion, an insane rise. Some say that it single-handedly financed their expansions to products that we all use today, Gmail, Maps, and otherwise. Mind-blowing fact, over 80% of Google's revenue for many years just came from ads. Another thing, they introduced AdSense in 2003 for publishers, which let them display text ads on their own sites, forming this sort of giant ad network. So if you were a website builder at the time, me and a bunch of my marketing buddies were, we tried to make websites and get a bunch of traffic. The strategy in 2003 was put AdSense on your website, and AdSense would be paying out billions of dollars to website owners worldwide, essentially making content creators of websites monetizable. You can actually make money making a website on the internet, plug and play. And it fueled this massive ecosystem of blogs, niche content creators, that was me, all thanks to that original vow to keep ads relevant and non-obtrusive. Also in 2004, which was a giant year for Google, they launched Gmail on April 1st, leading many to assume it was actually a joke. But the real joke was on the competition at that time. I remember when Gmail came out. Remember, Gmail offered 1 gigabyte free storage, while Hotmail and Yahoo gave 2 or 4 megabytes. It was ridiculous. We told everyone we knew, get in on Gmail. And Google's value here was, let's remove the biggest annoyance of email. That was their value, which was constantly deleting messages to stay under your limit. So Gmail's benefit was obvious. Never see an inbox full again. Plus, they had advanced search, which lets you quickly find old emails by typing a few words. And they had conversation threading and grouping related emails, so your inbox looked cleaner. And I remember at the time, it was invite only. So it felt exclusive. And when I was in college, a lot of us were stuck on Hotmail and old email services, and we'd actually hound some of our friends who got into Gmail early to give us their invites when they unlocked. And that viral sharing from one of my friends, he was a groomsman in my wedding, was how I got onto Gmail. And I'm still a Gmail user today, 20 years later. So what were those big features that made Gmail so successful? Well, a big part of it was that back-end infrastructure. Google had the data center horsepower to give you that storage cheaper than their competitors. And that invite-only rollout created insane hype. People literally sold their Gmail accounts on eBay for $150 each. By 2005, Gmail was rumored to have 2 million users in beta, and they still wanted more invites. It had this cool factor, sort of like Facebook during the same time. It was invite only on college campuses. I experienced it firsthand. Not to mention, they gave you that 1 gigabyte when it launched, which was laughably huge at that time. But then by 2013, they kept up the laughably huge storage benefit of their brand, bumping it up to 15 gigabytes for free on your Google account, which cemented brand loyalty for users like me and probably a bunch of you out there that have used it for decades. But wait, there's more. Then in 2005, Google introduced Maps. Soon after, Google Earth. They acquired Keyhole, a startup that had a partial CIA funding for advanced satellite imagery. And Google's ethos of organize the world's info now extended into actual geography and the real world. So now their values weren't just on the internet or in search or in these pure digital spaces. The benefits to users were amazing. You could navigate roads without printing MapQuest directions. I used to drive box trucks at that time, and we had to print out papers to know where we were going until Google Maps. You could explore satellite views and 3D terrain from your desk. And then there was Street View, which launched in 2007, and it took it up to another notch. You could see the front of your friend's house or a random tourist spot. It was pretty insane. And people's jaws literally dropped, mine included. The first time we saw 360 images of their own street, it was like you were there. Their key features were draggable, clickable map tiles, real-time traffic, street view vans capturing photos at 2.5 meter intervals. And then Google Earth introduced that 3D globe interface with a tilt and rotate. It's so sick when I saw it for the first time. They later added the ocean floor data for some reason, letting you fly underwater just to have it be more magical. And the historical imagery that you could time travel to certain spots. It was crazy cool from a marketing perspective. And I remember pulling out an iPad and looking at Google Earth and showing my mom and showing my family. It virally shared itself with the magic they created with those features. And by 2010, Google Maps handled 1 billion map requests every day. Street View, I think, had covered 5 million miles of roads across 50 countries. It was insane. They used specialized trikes or backpacks to capture more tricky locations during this time, like hiking trails too, or inside of museums. So the brand synergy was unstoppable when museums like the Met in New York, I moved there and my wife worked there for a bit. It was unstoppable. You could walk through the Met Museum on Google Maps. It was so inherently cool that news segments would just rave and rave and rave about this on TV for free. That's how compelling this was. In October 2006, Google bought YouTube for $1.65 billion. YouTube was an 18-month-old startup hosting viral videos, but it had minimal revenue. I started uploading YouTube videos the next year in 2007. And Google's value here was they just wanted to index all of the content. They wanted user-made videos to be indexed, and they embraced the platform instead of pushing Google Video instead. What a fantastic decision. And this big brand synergy let creators and viewers flourish on YouTube's existing culture, which at that time was very unique because there were really only a limited set of niche communities making content on the platform. It didn't have everything at the time. So for us users, the benefit was anyone can upload or watch infinity content. Pretty crazy. First time. Cat memes, educational videos. I uploaded some gaming videos starting in 2007. So for Google, the synergy with ads got introduced and it unlocked everything. They introduced monetization for creators, which created an actual career path for many YouTubers moving into the 2010s. That's when I became a full-time YouTuber, was on the back of that monetization method. Meanwhile, Google gave YouTube a reliable infrastructure, so there was no more "this video is down" fiascos, which were very common in that era. Their features, which we take for granted today, were easy uploads. They had an embedded Flash player, which was novel then. They had recommended videos via a proto-AI algorithm. It could be easily gamed at the time, though, with clicks and pictures of hot girls in bathing suits. But in any case, by 2008, YouTube was the #2 search engine globally after Google itself. Here's a mind-blowing fact. Pre-acquisition, YouTube was streaming 100 million clips daily. By 2012, that number soared to 4 billion daily views. Another stat, in 2022, YouTube ad revenue topped $30 billion. This product effectively revolutionized mass media, put TV out of business, and the YouTube Partner Program, which was introduced in 2007, is what really paved the way for influencers to make real money and it fueled the platform to make it so that being a content creator is an actual career opportunity for young people. I think because of YouTube itself, that fueled young people in surveys saying that they wanted to be an influencer for a living. YouTube as a platform has made more full-time creators than any other platform, hands down. There's no comparison. Somehow, simultaneously in 2006, Google took Writely, which was a tiny doc editor, and integrated it with Sheets and Gmail, and it became this new product suite called Google Docs, and a part of the broader Google Apps for your domain offering, now known as Workspace. But the value was really simple at that time. The value they wanted to provide was collaboration from anywhere with no friction. And I often joke that I have become a professional Google Docs creator with Not Corrupt Media and all the other businesses I've made, consulting businesses, because that workspace they created online to work with other people anywhere was better than any other solution. It sure as heck beat Microsoft Office. The benefits, which were novel at the time, were teams editing in the same doc simultaneously. I remember this was mind-blowing the first time I did it with people in the 2010s. There were no more emailing attachments. Nobody does that anymore. Google Docs made that paradigm shift happen. And for smaller businesses and schools, that was huge. There were no server licenses you had to pay for or software installs. You could just open a browser and collaborate with other people in documents on the internet. Microsoft Office took a massive blow from this better solution, these better benefits. The key features here included multi-cursor editing, so you could see what other people are doing in your doc, revision history, it auto-saved every few seconds to the cloud. Remember manually saving documents or not saving them and getting wrecked? They later added offline editing in Chrome, deeper integrations with Drive, and more. And by 2009, they had over 2 million companies using Google Apps. A couple of those were mine. Many paying for premium email and storage, further monetization. And even some universities would save tens of thousands of dollars annually. They used to do local email servers at universities, and they switched over to Google Apps. This marketing approach was incredible. It was subtle yet powerful, because once a teacher discovered how easy it was to make docs, they'd tell all the other teachers, and then guess what they would do? They'd share docs with the students, and now all the college students are using it. And what do those college students do? Go become professionals, go do jobs, and go start companies. And it fueled this viral adoption. It seems like every year Google dropped another hit. Well, here's another one. 2008, Google dropped Chrome. Google faced the biggest user complaint. Web browsers were slow or loaded with toolbars. So they launched Chrome. And the ethos here, the value they leaned on was minimal UI, lots of speed, maximum stability, and they introduced it with a comedic online comic by Scott McCloud explaining how Chrome spawns each tab as separate process. So if one tab crashes, the rest don't. So users got a much faster web experience. Plus the Omnibox that combined the address bar and the search bar. It was a new idea at the time. Plus they had auto update happen in the background, which meant you're secure without manual downloads and having to manually update your browser. It's hard for me to describe to people that weren't around pre-Chrome to post-Chrome how much better and faster this offering was. Offerings like this and also Firefox offered a great alternative to things like Internet Explorer. In terms of features, technical stuff like V8 JavaScript engine for speed, sandbox tabs, the stripped-down interface, and later they introduced the Chrome Web Store for extensions. I've got like 15 installed on mine right now. By 2012, Chrome did overtake that 500-pound gorilla, Internet Explorer, and they captured 40% of global browser share. And Chrome even launched a comedic speed test ad pitting their page loads versus random fast objects. They kind of nailed their marketing at this time. And in 2020, Chrome hit nearly 70% share of the desktop browser market. It was ridiculous. Around the same time, let's go back to 2005, Google quietly bought Android Inc. Then in 2007, they formed the Open Handset Alliance, touting a free and open OS for phones. So by 2008, the T-Mobile G1 launched. The big value they had for the market here was they wanted to open up mobile so users aren't locked to one expensive device or single vendor, aka Apple. Consumers got variety out of the deal. Budget to premium phones. It integrated with Google services they were already using and were popping off like Gmail, Maps, Play Store. Carriers loved it since they could brand the operating system of Android their own thing, and manufacturers loved it for the cost savings and that they could make custom UIs out of it for their own purposes, which allowed Android to capture whatever market share wasn't going to be gobbled up by the iPhone. The key features here included the Linux-based OS, Google's suite, like Search, YouTube, Maps, that were pre-installed, and an app ecosystem that grew exponentially, as you're well aware. Cupcake, Donut, Eclair, all these dessert-named operating system upgrades gave each Android update this sort of playful brand identity and tapped into that don't be evil ethos that they have and that openness and that playfulness. It was very disarming, even though Android was really taking over a huge portion of how we even interact with the world through our phones. And by 2010, Android was activating 160,000 phones a day. By 2011, it was 555,000 per day. Now, marketers didn't need massive campaigns here. The open model is what created an unstoppable momentum, essentially, for them. For Samsung, LG, Motorola, and more. Everybody wanted in because of the open model. And that value of openness delivered those benefits, you get the pattern, through these features, which allowed Android to become the juggernaut of today. But Google wasn't even close to done. In 2012, they introduced Drive, which lets you store your files in the same ecosystem as all their other stuff, like Docs, but with a single sign-on. And then in 2015, they split off Photos, famously giving unlimited compressed photo storage until 2021. It got me to switch and put literally every photo I've ever had on their service. And the core value here was that your data is yours and it's accessible anywhere. Now, some people may question how yours it is when it's being used for monetization, but at least that was the core value they leaned on from a marketing standpoint. The benefit was obvious that you have no more juggling flash drives or emailing yourself important files. You can just share or collaborate in seconds. And Photos got advanced AI-driven search, which allowed you to type in things like beach sunset or like your cousin's name, and it would find relevant pictures for you, providing this sort of mind-blowingly intuitive experience. Instead of having to flip through every single photo to maybe find the one you wanted, at that point, people would take hundreds, maybe thousands of pictures per year. That AI-driven search made finding pictures instant, allowing for photo search to be a benefit that Google could provide the market. Their features were great, like cross-device syncing, large free storage tiers. Initially, they gave 5 gig for Drive and then 15 gig across different services. And they integrated it with Gmail so large attachments can be links. And so by 2017, Google Photos was ingesting 1.2 billion images a day from users. And in 2019, Drive boasted 1 billion active users. People practically rely on it for daily workflows, me included. Making this video, I'm using Drive for everything. And marketing-wise, Google mostly used product demos showing how easy it was to just pick up your phone, show a doc you were editing in your laptop, and just effortlessly, the brand synergy worked again. And it tied into their entire ecosystem. All right, let's take a deep breath and just see the larger pattern here. Let's see the forest from the trees. Values. Google always started with user-focused missions, like what's the biggest annoyance in email? Let's fix it. Or people want open phone choices. Let's unlock that. Then they connected that to benefits. They hammered down how it helps you, like never delete an email, Zoom anywhere in the world, speed through the web, collaborate in real time. But then those benefits can't reach the market unless you have the features to support it. And so they fixed PageRank. They gave you a gigabyte of storage. They sandboxed your tabs. They had an open operating system, etc. Each product soared because it truly solved a problem. Not just because Google had the big budget or whatever to throw around. In many cases, the product's own wow factor served as the marketing. It's the epitome of how we approach branding at Not Corrupt Media. You define your why, you articulate the real user benefit, then you showcase the features that deliver on it. It's that simple. That synergy fosters unstoppable brand loyalty. So, by 2018, Alphabet, Google's parent company, joined that exclusive 1 trillion with a T market cap club with Apple, Amazon, and Microsoft. Remember that scrappy pizza-fueled idea from 1998? Well, it's now a global workforce employing 190,000 people, generating ad revenue in the tens of billions. Meanwhile, Google's multi-product ecosystem feels so natural, we don't even stop to think about it, that it was a garage startup a couple decades ago. That's how you get a brand to planetary scale. The term Googling was added to the Webster Dictionary in 2006 because to use the Google search engine to obtain information was just something we talked about every day. Just Google it. The brand infiltrated into our language at a fundamental level. So that's the unstoppable story of how a minimal search engine turned into an entire lifestyle brand covering communication, navigation, entertainment, productivity, basically everything. At every step, it was about putting user needs first, delivering solutions so good they practically sold themselves. And that core message, if you really solve user headaches thoroughly, you never have to beg people to adopt your product. They'll come knocking. If you want that same clarity for your startup, your product, your brand, your company, where each feature emerges from a deep user value alignment, then let's talk. Head to notcorrupt.media and book a free discovery call with my team. That's it for today's Create the Thing. I'm Andrew Wall. Thanks for listening, and remember to create the things you wish existed.